So then you say, well, I said, wait a second now. I'm like, if minorities are going to end up being a majority population, they're going to end up running America, and they're all being locked up and given lousy educations, how are we going to remain a superpower? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. I said, somebody's got to figure this out and realize we got to do something dramatic about this. And I thought, oh, wait a second. They really know what the plan is, but it's just above my pay grade, right? You figure, all the people in the country, they have this is not like a problem that I'm aware. Everybody has to know this, but I can't figure out what the plan is. So I figure they know, but they just haven't told me, because who am I to tell, right? So over the last couple of years, I've met a few presidents, a few secretaries of education, a few secretaries of labor, domestic policy. There is no plan. There is no plan. When they saw me, they started asking me, Jeff, what do you think we ought to do? I'm saying, why are you asking me? You running the country, and you're asking me what we should be doing. I'm still. You know what? There's no one coming to the rescue. You better understand, if you want to save your children, you're going to have to save your own kids. Nobody's coming here to save your children. I wish I could tell you different. I wish I could tell you there was a plan. It ain't no plan. If you don't think people are totally capable of destroying this country, then you better go back about a year ago and see what was happening to our financial institutions in America when they just about destroyed that, right? Our children are in peril. This thing is a crisis. This is not some passing thing. This thing, if you all don't do something, you're not going to save your kids. See, I decided to save my kids. I realized nobody was coming. And people said, you crazy. They started this 11 years ago. They said, what are you going to, how many? I said, no, there's nobody coming. If we don't save our kids in Harlem, no one else is going to save them. So we decided we want to save them. So we came up with our strategy. Right now, the president has decided that he's going to make this strategy part of their plan. Before President Obama was elected, he was senator, and he called and said, look, we want to make an announcement in Washington that we're going to replicate the Harlem Children's Zone in 20 places across the country. You want to know, if you're in, so I said, that'll be great, that'll be terrific, I'm all with you, I'm for you. And this was before Super Tuesday, it was before, the primaries. And I thought, wouldn't it just be my luck? The one guy who's not going to win wants to replicate my work, right? That shows you my political acumen, right? I mean, I had this thing all wrong, right? But what you say, so what did you do? Look, this is no longer an experiment for us. I was explaining to people, what we're doing is complicated, but it ain't that complicated. What we're doing is hard, but it ain't that hard. In the end, people have failed in these communities because we've tried to attack a problem, right? Someone went after teen pregnancy, or someone went after gangs, or someone went after early childhood, when the issue is you've got to do everything. And that's what we realized, you have to do everything. And then my board was like, you can't do everything. They said, Jeff, figure out what's the right age where we can get in where you maximize your impact, because you can't do it all. I said, so you want me to figure out what age we could work with, and then we would stop when nothing's working in our community. They said, yes, Jeff, come on, be hard-headed about this. I said, let me ask you a question. My board is very wealthy, all educated. I said, so you've got plenty of money, yes. You and your wife have college degrees, yes, we have college degrees. Family support, yeah, family. Schools, your kids go to great schools, great schools, everything. When could you drop out of your kid's life for 3 or 4 years? They said, well, I could never do that. I said, why? Why couldn't you do that? Well, of course, they need me. So you realize that kids need support throughout their entire life. You can't do it in elementary school and think they're going to be fine. You can't do it in middle school and think, oh, it's going to be great from here. You can't even do it in high school and think it's all done. We know that kids, middle-class kids need support, upper-middle-class kids need support. Why would we think there was a time you could stop supporting poor children who live in the most vulnerable places? So we said, you've got to do it all. So what is doing it all? The first is we begin early. We begin at birth. Why? There is, you can't see this, and you're just going to have to trust me on this, all right? But I take this with me because this is from Harvard. And the heading is "The Barriers to Educational Achievement Emerge at a Very Young Age." And they've got 3 lines. This top line is college-educated parents. The second line is working-class parents. The lowest line are welfare parents. And it's looking at their cumulative vocabulary. And at 18 months, all of the lines are flat, right? And every pediatrician will tell you, well, that's because children are just starting to acquire language, but they're acquiring it. By 24 months, the lines are divergent. And I have to tell you which lines are higher. By 36 months, by 3 years old, the college-educated kids know 3 times more words than the kids on welfare. But what's shocking, they know 2 times more words than the kids from working-class families. That's at 3. This gets worse every year. So imagine this kid hits kindergarten at 5. What do you think that kid is at? It's all over the country. And you know what? Everybody's trying to close the gap between those poor children and working class children. The working class children are still only know half the words. We've got to close the gap between the poor kids and the college-educated parents. Those are the kids that we got to get those kids equivalent if they're going to compete. See, everybody talks about this is a meritocracy. We're all supposed to come out and everybody competes fairly and may the best person win. This is not meritocracy. These kids are right from the jump. They are behind and they will not catch up. That's just the nature of, so you can't have an America, not the country that we love, where you have this kind of knowledge. So when we say beginner, we have something we call baby college. We work with children starting from birth. We help their parents figure out what we know about raising children. Why it's so important to read to your child? Why it's so important to sing to your child? Why it's so important to play with your child? Why it's so important to use language that encourages this child and not language that shuts the child down? You know, I'm from a community where people want their kids to be quiet and behave, right? Now, anyone who tries to get a 2-year-old to be quiet and behave is wasting their time, right? But people think that's a good kid. They say, ooh, look at that little boy, he's so bad. No, he's 2. He's not bad, right? Don't spend all your time and energy trying to get a 2-year-old to stop doing. That's the time that child is learning. That's the child that, I was talking to some of my staff, I said, listen, doesn't it drive you crazy when kids constantly ask you questions? Yes, you know that age? I mean, how come this? And then how come it's white? And then why was it? And leave me alone. Wrong answer. When do kids love to learn? When they're asking all of those questions, right? That's nothing but learning. Here's this kid begging you, teach me, teach me, teach. Don't shut these kids down. They haven't told our families that. So we start at birth, teaching parents. This is what you have to do. If you're going to get these kids ready, if we're going to make up these words, this is what we've got to do. Then starting at 4, we get them ourselves. Start 8 o'clock in the morning, stay 5:45 in the evening. We go 11 months out of the year. We teach the kids in 3 languages, French, Spanish, and English, because our kids come into our program speaking 3 different languages. So every kid learns all they need to know for kindergarten in every language, all 3 of them. And all of our kids get in kindergarten, 100% for the last 8 years on grade level, every single child. Don't care whether they come with developmental problems, any of them. Pick it up early and solve it. We've been known that. Now, let me tell you the next thing. We connect our program, so those kids go from our baby college into our 4-year-old program, then we started our own schools. And they go right in our schools, because when my kids in the kindergarten, they're on grade level. When they leave kindergarten, guess where they better be? On grade level. Or guess whose fault it is? Kindergarten teacher. When they're in the 3rd grade, they enter 3rd grade on grade level. I know that. When they go in the 4th grade, they better be on grade level. In the end, you get these kids on grade level, and you never let them get behind. You just start it from the beginning, and our kids are on grade level. They are higher, they're performing higher than white kids in the state of New York. That's what's happening when you get these kids on grade level. But you know what? You know what? It's a more intense program, right? It's a more intense program. Our schools stay open through the first week in August, mandatory, because this thing is about making sure these kids are prepared and that they can compete. Now, if you do that, kids will reach their full potential. Now, what do I mean by full potential? I'll give you an example. My board chair is a very wealthy guy. His daughter, second daughter, fell in love with chess. And because he had so much money, he got her the best chess instructor in the country. And then he said to me, he said, Jeff, how about a chess program in Harlem? He said, I'll get you all the best chess instructor in the country also. He said, and then we could train our kids. They go beat up on those prep school kids. Wouldn't that be fun? I said, yeah, that would be fun, right? That'd be great. So starting in second, third grade, we got the best chess instructors in America to work with our kids. 4 years later, our girls ranked number 2 in the country, right? So people, but check this out. So people see these kids coming from Harlem, and you could just see the kids. Oh, here come the Harlem Kids. Oh, man. And the coaches for the other kids, all these prep schools, they wondered, why are these Harlem kids so good? And they think it's because their lives are so complicated, right? They take 2 steps, then they have to move this way. That's probably how helps their thinking about chess. No, it's just because they get the same quality of instruction at the same age as kids who go to the private schools. That's all it is. And if you give kids the same starts, they can reach their full potential. And that's what we believe very strongly. So we get those kids, we stay with them through college. Now, we have a whole group of kids who don't come to our schools because we started with them at middle schools and high school. We started our schools younger. We get those kids in college. Even kids that we know are 2 and 3 years behind, right, because they didn't go to our school. We pick them up in 8th, 9th, 10th grade. We get those kids in college. We're placing about 90% of our high school seniors in college. And then our job is to get them through college because the kids drop out of college. So we have to stay with these kids till they're through college. Now, starting this year, I have about 580 of my kids in college. And what will be interesting is about 2 years from now, I'll start bringing home about 100 kids a year with college degrees. Let that cook for 6 or 7 years. Let me flood my zone with 600 or 700 college-educated men and women who grew up in the community as part of the rebuilding of community. And I will show you a transformed community. I mean, that's what it takes to get this thing done. So then we provide all the other support. So look, there's a big debate in America. Is it about teachers and principals, or is it about wraparound services? We think it's about both. We think it's about both. And in the end, we provide health, mental health, dental health. We provide sports, recreation. We do all of the services. We do economic support, housing support. We do everything possible to make sure our young people live as middle class an existence as possible. I tell everybody, if you want to know what the answer is, you do for these kids what you do for your own kids. If you do that, you don't go wrong, right? But then, everybody tell me, well, you can't really mean that. No, of course I really mean that. Of course I really mean that. I really mean that. Why should these kids, when we know what we need for our own kids, why should these kids get anything less? So here, let me tell you the part. Now, this gets me in trouble. I suspect it'll get me in trouble here in Detroit. You all may not invite me back again. But schools have to be redesigned for success, right? So let me tell you what that means. You say, what do you mean by redesign? Well, a school is like a machine. It is what it produces. So if you had a machine here and it was this contraption and it was steam and valves and at the end of the process, out came a hammer, the machine makes hammers. So if you got a school and at the end of the school year, out comes failure, you have a school designed for failure.